Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Book. On this episode, I have the privilege to have an author that I think it's talking about things that we all need to hear. So, welcome, Anne. Welcome to Beyond the Book.
Hi, good morning, Karen. Thanks for the invite. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, well, I wanna first say thank you for taking the time. We all have busy schedules, so for me, it's very Um, I'm honored to actually say that you're joining me today to have this honest conversation, right? And we were actually talking before we started recording about the conversation we're going to have today. And I want everyone listening or looking at us today that they know that this is a real honest conversation. There was nothing scripted. There's nothing that we actually prepared. So we're just going to have two women who had been in business who want to share our hearts, our souls, and our experiences through this podcast so you guys can learn something, right? And I hope my intention for this episode is that everything that we share can help and benefit someone listening out there. So I'm going to ask you a question first. And that question is, how are you? And before you answer, I want you to tell me if you always answer, how are you, with honesty.
That's a great question. I was just about, I actually thought of, should I say I'm fine? Because that's what we do in Scotland, where I'm from, although I now live in Australia. And I once had a friend tell me that FINE stands for frustrated, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. And then we laughed because FINE. And I was like, so I no longer just say I'm fine, because that's a cover over for a whole lot of other things that might be going on. My honest answer is that I'm good. I'm actually having some physical ailments at the moment due to some sport that I've been doing. So sitting for any length of time is becoming a bit uncomfortable. Um, and I answer that question honestly, depending on the audience, I suppose. So with you, yes. In a business environment where sometimes people ask you, how are you? And they just want you to say fine. They just want to move on to it's almost like a welcoming statement. They don't really want an honest answer, so they just want to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can pick up in this environment, they don't actually want to hear about my ailments or my kids, or they want me to be fine so that I can get on and do the job. So it depends on the circumstances, I suppose, is my answer.
And you won't believe this, but I'm going through the same pain.
Are you?
Yes, because this week I said I can lift more weight. Like, Keren, it's time to lift more weight. You've been on the same weight, lifting those, and you need to push yourself a little bit more because you know you can. So you got comfortable here. So it's painful, but I think that's the same in life and in business, and that's the same when you want to achieve more. You have
Yeah,
to go through that pain because you know it's good. It's just a reminder that things are not easy and they're
yeah,
earned, right?
yes.
Uh, Discipline is earned. The next step on our journey in our career is earned. And I feel you officially, like I really feel you today.
You feel
And
my
I
pain.
yeah, yeah, because I'm all about actually the name of this episode. It's the price to pay when you lose yourself.
Mm.
So I actually thought about your books and all the work that you've done for women and men, empowering them to be confident, to speak up. You actually have a lovely phrase that I would like for you to share a little bit more. But I think that there's a price to pay, and the part of it, it's reading books, spending the time on actually learning, either if you're listening to them or you're reading them. So why don't we start by you sharing a little bit for anyone out there who hasn't ever like seen your work or experienced your workshops or being part of your community, to tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, well, thank you. So I started my business 10 years ago, and it was called 2Empower Coaching. And my two daughters are Maris and Megan. So they were the two M's. So it's a number two and then a capital M and then power. And really, I started it to be a good role model to them because I, in my own life, was struggling.
Mm.
And I went to see a coach and was like, I've hit midlife. My kids don't want me around anymore. My role is changing as a wife and a mother. What do I do next? And I explained to her what I'd done in the past through NLP and positive psychology and chaplaincy and all the different areas where I had worked. And she said, well, why don't you reach out and see if there are other women that feel the same as you, and you could use these skills that you've got to help them. And so I started a meetup group, which took off. I was quite lucky that early on, I was amazed at how many women actually were struggling and feeling the same as me. And I kind of inadvertently became the leader of that group as I was sharing things. But what was interesting was, as I was saying to them, but have you not heard of this technique, or have you not done that exercise? I was thinking, I'm not doing it for myself. Like, I knew all the things I should be doing for my mindset and my physical body, and the things that would make me feel better, and set goals and be able to find what my future would hold, and what made me happy. But I wasn't using any of the tools. So that was a great reminder. And basically, I didn't set out to have a business. The women in that group then said they didn't really want to share in a big group. Could I help them one-on-one? And they would just come to the house and sit on the sofa, and we'd get a big sheet of paper out. We'd write down, okay, what are you struggling with? And, sort of I do a thing of, where are you? Where do you want to be? Who are you? Who do you want to be? And then how are we going to get you there? But just walking alongside them every step of the way. And then that grew to doing networking, learning about marketing, getting invited into some corporations to do some work. And you mentioned earlier my tagline, which is to step up, speak up, and show up with confidence. Because I found women in particular, and there are some men as well, but I understood how women felt more because I'm a woman and I've got 2 daughters, and my husband's very much an alpha male and never really needs any help. He's always got it sorted in his own head. He's not a self-help kind of guy. And so I found that, and most women were so capable, but they just lacked the confidence and the belief in themselves. And they put everyone else first. So it was overcoming that. And even for me, overcoming that and feeling that, oh, if I start to do this, I was being a bit selfish because I was putting what I wanted to do, because I was getting so much pleasure from it, putting that first. And initially, the family didn't really like it, because prior to then, I was doing all the cooking and the cleaning and taking them to all the netball games and things that they wanted to do. And then when I said, I don't want to do all that anymore, it really set the cat among the pigeons in the house. And then from there, it came to a friend asked me to help her. She runs story rooms, and she gets local community together, and she gets people to come and share stories. And she wanted me to help those that had a really good story to just hone in on it and give them the confidence to step up and speak. And then others who were struggling to find their story, or could talk forever and have the confidence, but weren't able to kind of narrow it down to takeaways that would help the listener. So we ran some workshops together. And at the end of the workshops, she said to me, do you have any material that people could take away? And I started to put through, from my years, the last 10 years of doing neuro-linguistic programming, the linguistic parts all around language and how we talk to ourselves, how we talk to others. And so I had a plethora of material. And she said to me, oh my God, this could be a book. And that planted the idea of, well, maybe I could put all of this into a confident conversations book. And I did a public speaking book, and then a second one, because I enjoyed it so much, into how do you talk to someone at a networking event, or on a first date, or um, if you have to do a speech at a funeral, or so it's kind of organically over the last 10 years, everything's grown to what I'm doing now, which is still the one-on-one coaching plus the writing and publishing.
And I'm gonna go back a little bit to the 2M. And for me, when I saw that earlier, because I was doing continuing the research a little bit about what you've done, and your website and everything, which anyone listening or looking at us today can go and click and actually go to your website and look at it and explore more about your work. But when I saw the 2M, I was wondering, is that 2 million? Because I see how,
Uh-huh.
or I said, is that 2M, like M in Spanish is mujeres. So,
Oh,
so,
yes.
so my brain was like, she's her is her mission reaching out to 2 million women next year. Like that was like,
I love that.
that's the first thought. I didn't know because we never talked about it. I didn't know it was for your daughters, but that's
Yeah.
so beautiful. But there's so much meaning when we see something, right? That it will speak to us, and we don't even know. Same thing happens with the books.
Hmm.
um you write something and you really don't know what is it that it's triggering positively in people
And
because
someone
they
else.
they could
Hmm.
see themselves in your story when you're sharing things like I'm teaching people how to network. For me, that's such a natural thing to communicate and to talk. And it's an ability that I feel like I was born to do. My mom says that my teachers in elementary school will call my mom and say, "Hey, can you please tell your daughter to stop organizing the group? She's 6, but she's organizing the groups against us." And I guess like I've always thought that that is something it comes when you're born. And some people think like I'm not good at it. And that's a big lie, right? That's a big
Hmm.
lie. Sometimes some of us, we're very like, we have this intelligence, right? When that it means that we can talk to people, but you can also develop this skill and also asking yourself, why do I believe what I believe, right? Why do I believe I cannot have a natural conversation with someone in a date? For me, I'm still shocked that people that you see that they look very confident, they don't have self-acceptance,
Hmm.
right? So there's a big difference between confidence and self-acceptance. And like I said, this podcast for me is a place where I like to be vulnerable. So for me, I've always been seen as someone very confident, someone with a lot of self-confidence. Oh, you can speak, you can walk, regardless of anything, you are always, showing up and speaking up. But the truth is there was a lot of lack of self-acceptance on my end. And there are things that and it goes back to our pain today in our bodies, right? It goes back to sometimes you hide in your body or you hide your emotions. And the work that you do in the book and the rest of the books and the one that you're actually about to launch soon, that you're going to talk about it a little bit more in the rest of the time that we have together. It's I want you to share that, and I want to go back to the price of losing yourself in business as a woman, right? What are the things that you've seen happening when what are the main things that a woman, like the red flags, a woman, like you said, there was a moment that you said, I don't want to do this anymore. And the truth is that takes a lot of courage to say, I don't want to be this person anymore. I want to be this person. Or even, I don't know who do I want to be. The only thing I would know is that I don't want to be this person or anymore. And that's fair. So I would like for you
Yeah.
to share uh, um, if someone is listening today and feels that way, I would like to hear from you in your experience. What are the like if right now we will try to look at those red flags, what's happening in someone's mind, body, emotions that can say, oh, you know what, maybe I have a problem and I should really look for help.
Yeah, I think a big, for me anyway, what I've noticed now I'm a lot older, looking back, I can see my life in different decades. So your teens are you're still at school and going to uni and having fun and you've got lots of confidence. Although for many people at school, especially when we're very young, we're told to sit down and be quiet. So if you do have that, I mean, there's even the teachers phoning your mum and saying, "Can you tell her to stop organizing?" Like that was a natural gift of yours, but because you weren't organizing when they wanted, how they wanted, the way they wanted you to stop. And we get that a lot in our life from very early on. Um, and we're told to sit down and be quiet, and you're rewarded for being a good girl and for sitting tidy and coloring in rather than you know hitting a ball down the hallway or trying to do rollerblades through the living room. So we're told that you know that quiet, more demure behavior is more acceptable. And so I think we start to tell ourselves, or we react, the body reacts to um, any kind of put down or desire to get approval. And then we get into our 20s and we get into the workplace, and we, whatever it is that you choose to do, you know, if you're a nurse, there's maybe other, you know, doctors that are telling you you're no good, or you're bossing you around, or there's patients that are rude, or things that kind of knock away at your confidence. If you're in an office, it can be the same. There's a lot of competitiveness, and my daughters are in their 20s now and going through this, and they're like, they thought everybody would like them all the time because they had a family that loved them, and friends at school that loved them, and they're now going into the workplace and not everybody loves them, and they're like, this is challenging. And so then it's like, well, how do I show up at work to, and it's that putting on those masks that, you know, we talked about earlier when you said, how are you? Like, you know, where do we show how we really are, or who we really are? Because we live in a system and a society where there's certain behavior expected in certain circumstances. Then we get into our 30s, and I think for the majority, and this might be wrong, from my experience, that's all I'm talking from, the wiring is that many people want to have a family of their own. So they want to find a partner and have children, and that brings stresses and everything. But you're doing that. That's the next step on the ladder of where you see your life going. Where all of that changes is in your 40s and 50s, when you hit menopause, the change of life. You've both been spending the whole time building, building, building to gather, to gain, whether that's a house, a car, private schooling, whatever the things that this capitalist society tell us that we want. And I've followed all of that too, by the way. And we all got caught up in that. But then within our bodies, something changes. Our hormones begin to change. Women go through the menopause. Men go through a male menopause as well. And I think we have these milestones that, okay, if I'm married by then and got kids by then and got enough money to travel by then in my own house and my own, then I'm successful. That's how we measure how successful we are. But when you hit sort of 50, you think, okay, well, I've done all of that now. My kids don't need me now. In the same way, I've got to let them fly. Your job is to build them to be confident and independent, but it's like anything, you know, if you love it, you've got to let it go. And that leaves you feeling vulnerable and a bit lost. And all this time as well, for me particularly, I had done the housewife bit. And before I got married, I had quite a successful corporate career. And I gave that up to move to Australia and to be a homemaker, which I loved. I loved being able to have that time, and I'll never get that time again. So it's a treasure for me. But it was also a sacrifice. And so when I hit the menopause, and I've heard people saying, I'm not an expert on this, but we have less estrogen and more progesterone. So we become a bit more masculine and we become a bit more determined. Especially very gentle women can suddenly become quite fiery, and it takes your breath away. And that was me a bit. And I was just like, something within me was like, no matter how much I want to serve, I just can't do it anymore. It has to now be about me. And what I had to learn was that wasn't being selfish, it was about self-interest and self-development. I mean, I was teaching self-development. It's like, you got to keep developing yourself. Have I answered your question?
Yeah, 100%. Keep going. This is very that's self-interest, right? And mission and my goal in life and what's my destiny. The reality is the way that I see it in my short period of time on this earth, which is just 36 years, right? So it's not a lot of time, but it's funny because yesterday someone reached out to me and they say, I want to get to know you. I've seen you 3 years at the gym, but I want to know who you are. And I found
Ah,
it very interesting
yeah,
because
that's lovely.
Because I only go and exercise and I leave. I really don't interact much, but uh it's interesting how someone that I told this person, I guess what you're seeing is that I have a short life, but I lived it full to my fullest.
Yeah,
You know, I
yeah,
lived every
yeah,
day to
yeah.
my fullest. And also I spend a lot of time with my mom and my grandma, which are my besties, and they're 50 something and 70 something. And I listen to their advice. So I probably see the world in a very different way. And I think that's what's missing also, right? So
Yes, yes.
generation generations on the women in their 30s listening to women in their 50s, 60s,
That's right.
70s, 80s, because they do know things because of
Yeah.
experience. It's not, regardless of the technology changing, regardless of what we see on the outside is changing. I listened to this on one of, I think it was an audiobook or a podcast, I don't remember, but our brain, it's not going to develop. Our brains are not going to change. Our hearts are not going to change. Our souls are not going to change, regardless of the outside world. The problems that we see in business and women uh, are going to be the same
Yes,
as in the past. So
yes.
the first thing that you can do is to get advice and be open and be coachable to actually try as much as you can to avoid the same mistakes,
Yeah.
right? So, and another thing I wanted to talk to you, because you work with so many women on the one-on-one coaching and also you talk to them through the books and on your community, is what is this, how much is it hurting us as women, this women empowerment movement in relationships and at work? And I'm asking this question because I do have my personal experience that we talked about it in our previous conversation, right? Saying like, I don't need a man, I can do it, acting like a man sometimes in meetings, like not really bringing emotions, your empathy, because that's sometimes seen as weakness.
Hmm.
So I would like for you to share how in your eyes, in your view of the world, being this empowered woman in leadership, it's really affecting us more than serving us.
Yeah, and I think it's gone. I don't know if saying too far is the right word. Some women will say, no, it's not gone far enough. And we still talk about the ceiling and pay salaries and all that kind of thing. I still see women getting paid less than men for jobs. And I think we are wired very differently, men and women. But I think we can't just say a whole gender sweep. You can get very masculine women and you can get very feminine men. What I like to look at is the individual. Who are you as an individual? Are you a strong, independent kind of woman? Um, what feeds you? Because if and what you said is, say a lot of women think they have to behave like men to be seen and be heard, and they can then take on a more aggressive, domineering tendency. But if that's not your nature, it doesn't work. When I was young and worked in the oil industry, I was one of the first females to work out on the field in the oil industry in Scotland. And I was surrounded by men who were everything from CEOs and well polished to guys that worked in petrol stations and were pretty rough. And thankfully, I had four brothers, so I was used to kind of having banter with men and stuff. If I had gone into that job and tried to act like the men and be a man, I'd have been out within a week. What really worked for me was my feminine qualities. And I don't mean sexy feminine winking and blah blah blah. I mean understanding how people communicate, having empathy, listening, um, sort of debating, like you still are going to be intelligent and strong, but in a just in a natural feminine way, just in your natural way. Um, Even in building a business, we did talk about this, that you try and follow other gurus and they all have a template and they say, oh, use my template and you'll be a success. And I don't know how many times I fell for that, how many thousands of dollars I spent on those programs to discover that actually it didn't work for me because their driver was different to mine, their personality was different to mine, their messaging was different to mine. And And so yes, you can take those things and but tailor it to who you are. And I think what's happened with women over time is it's like, you know, they say, oh, you can have everything. What it's turned out to be is that we do everything. One of the hardest things for me when I started my business was to say, I'm not doing all the housework anymore. I'm not cooking every night anymore. I want to have time to do calls in the evening and to learn and to read books and to have clients that are maybe early in the morning, and I don't want to have to do everything for everybody else first before I can get to my work. Um, and that was quite upsetting for them because it had been so nice until then. And what we had to do was come up, we actually started to instigate family meetings. So in a way that I would have meetings with others, I thought, right, well, I'm going to meet with my husband and my kids, and I'm going to say, what's everybody got on this week? Who needs driven somewhere? Who needs this? Who needs that? But what that means is I also can have an opportunity to say, what does mum need this week? And what does mum, the new business owner who's striving and stressed about that, because it brings its own stresses, what does she need? And we drew up rosters for cooking, and I bought in one of those like whole Hello Fresh boxes where it comes with a recipe and all the ingredients. And by this time, my girls were 15 and 16, and I said to them, you can cook, you can do this. And it made them grow up. It made them, you know, become a bit more mature. When they were moving out, it made them better housemates. It made them more independent. They started getting the bus everywhere. So instead of me going and picking them up, they know the city like the back of their hand now. They'll jump a train and a bus any time of day or night without thinking about it. So in a way, I did empower them. My intention was to be a role model, but inadvertently, I did empower them. And what's interesting is they said to me early on, like it was all moaning and groaning, but now 10 years in, they'll say, gosh, mum, you've helped us see that we can change and be independent. You've also helped to make us stronger. And we're so proud of you. But not because I've taken everything on and become a martyr, which is kind of the behavior that I had when I was going through the menopause. It was more, let's be very balanced about this. And so I think if you're going to run a business or have any kind of project that you're working on, see your family as a team the way that you do with your business so that you don't end up doing it all. Because I think then women just get overwhelmed and overburdened and stressed, and the whole thing comes crashing down. And then the self-talk sets in of, oh, see, I'm hopeless. I knew it wouldn't work. I know I'm not any good. I can't do this. Blah, blah, blah.
And to just I love what you're sharing because um there's certain level of empowerment when you're financially independent, when you're a woman that is financially,
Yes.
but there's also you're giving away this power. And I'm going to share a brief story here. I have an event coming in January 2026, and I'm inviting people in my city that they have amazing success stories that they started with on their own. So I call this person who I want to be speaking on the stage, and he said, "Call my wife," right? And I loved it because I haven't met her before, but when I call her, we had the most amazing conversation. But the way that she said and the way that she framed it was, he's running our business, but I'm running the most important business, which is our family. And we
Yep.
run it same way. We have
Love
the
that.
same level of leadership because running a team at a let's say e-commerce space, or running a team when it comes to um, any business, you name it, right? Any business, whether if that's in the oil industry or if that's in film or whatever, that's a team. She said, I have my team to actually motivate, take care of, listen, and guide. And I told her that is so beautiful. You see it that way because it's true. If you don't take care of this one, or if there's not at least someone taking care of this business, his business is going to go down, because if
That's
you
right.
go down, everything goes down.
That's right.
And and for me, I was like, wow, I just love it. And also I started asking myself more questions because I have never seen in my family a woman being a housewife. They're all independent women that had been doing their own money because of the city that I live in. Most of women were known as very independent women, but very bossy as well.
Yeah.
Very bossy. And then I started like thinking, if I would be a man, would I like to be having me as a wife?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And then I also started like really reflecting and asking my kids, like, if you would see me as a boss, as I'm your mom, how would you see me? They're like, well, you're pretty bossy.
Yeah.
I was like, I know that. And I'm pretty sure that's how I am at work.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot be a different person. So
Yeah.
all of this like it brings me to the name, like your book, right? Take back your the control, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you take control, you cannot take control of others if you don't take control of yourself,
That's right.
right? You cannot speak up if you don't have a voice.
Yeah.
And you cannot be confident if you don't feel like you've accomplished something. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it's the most minimum thing. You need to find your place at home. You need to find your place at work, and you need to find your place in your relationship. So tell me about your first book. What are the main things that you're teaching on that first book?
So the first book about that was actually as I was going through that process that I wrote that book, because I needed to take back control of my own life because I felt that I had become um, such a giver, but to the extent that it became expected. And while I was giving freely and through choice, it was fine. But when it started to be expected and I was missing out on things I wanted to do because others felt that they were demanding and needed my attention and whatever, that's when I started to go sour. And when I started this group, these women were saying, well, what did you do? And it's funny because, again, it was the books have been triggered by people asking me a question. And I was like, oh, I don't really know what I did because, when things just evolve and happen. And then I thought that would actually be great if I could show these women the steps that I took. And so I went back to like old diaries that I had and I'd written things down, and some of them are pages of rage and some of them are pages of enlightenment and some of them are pages of taking action. And I drew from that, and a lot of the neuro-linguistic programming and the positive psychology that I had learned, because I studied that all through the 2000s, exercises that I had learned and incorporated, even some hypnosis stuff. I put bits of that in between the story. A big part of that book was about goal setting, but I really dislike SMART goals. And most people are going to go, oh, everybody follows SMART goals, but I think SMART goals were written by a man, because they're very sort of mental and not heart centered. I like to think of heart goals rather than SMART goals. And I actually turned the word smart backwards. Just one day I was out walking the dog and I was thinking all this through as I was preparing for the book. And I saw the word smart backwards, and it reads trams. A tram like on a track going through a city. And I started to have this epiphany within like literally 3 seconds. I saw this image of me on the tram up the front driving it like a bus, and so one of the questions I ask in the book is, you up the front, are you up the front driving, or are you sitting down the back as a passenger, just letting life take you wherever it takes you? um the T was for like going towards your goal. The R was all about relationships. For me, success in life is all about relationships. It's all about the people that you can connect with, exactly what you're doing, the people that you can help, the people in your network. Even if you want to go and buy a coffee, somebody's picked the beans, packed the beans, ground the beans. The guy in the coffee shop's heated the beans and the milk and served it to you. Like there's nothing that we do where we do totally on our own. Everything we have, there's been other people that have helped it come to fruition. So the R in my goal setting is, who have you got around you and your relationships. And the A is attitude. Because if you feel resentful or um unsure, or something's holding you back, whatever your attitude towards your goal is, it will have a huge impact. if you don't actually feel that you deserve it or you can do it, then it's not going to happen. And the M for me is that it has to be meaningful and memorable. So whatever I do, if I'm doing a goal, if I'm working with someone and they say, oh, I want to do this, right? Say it's money, right? Because, okay, what do you want that money for? Oh, I need to pay the mortgage and blah, blah, blah. And I said, but you've got 30 years to pay the mortgage. Does it matter if you pay it 10 years earlier? If you love what you're doing and you're going to work longer, or do you really want to pay it? And then what if there was, something that like a bit deeper than that? And then they say, well, actually, I pay the mortgage, but if I had a bit extra to take the kids to Disney, that would be the trip of a lifetime. That would be, now there's an emotional connection, because to see your kid's face at Disney and take pictures and you'll be able to look at that forever, that's more motivating and more meaningful than just paying off the mortgage. And the S is to stay stable. So if you're on a tram, you're on lines. And I also like to say smile, because I think if you're not enjoying what you're doing, then that's a trigger to stop doing what you're doing. And that was for the state for me. I was no longer enjoying being a stay-at-home mum. I'd kind of done my stint and I wasn't smiling anymore. So that all of that is in the book, and there's exercises where you can work through yourself and
I
come
love
up
it.
with what your goals are. Thank you.
That's amazing. Like I wouldn't definitely those are things that I think is just like there's something greater than ourselves that when you're trying really to share something from your heart and from the things that you're going through and you become vulnerable just to help others, you come up with ideas like that one. Right?
And
You
I was out
vulnerable.
walking the dog. Yeah, I was in the park, and it just, they say that when you're relaxed, and then that's when you become creative. Yeah.
And this week, we're in a time, I don't know when you're watching or listening to this episode, but it was the letter of goodbye of Warren Buffett.
Oh,
And
yes.
I loved what he said, those three things. It's about the team,
Mm.
right? Find people exactly what you said, like the right attitude, that they enjoy what they do, that they work with their hearts, that they are real leaders, but not from their mind, but from their heart and with a purpose. And the other one is just like make mistakes, kind of like live your life,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Make
yes.
mistakes. And
And learn.
I was surprised that his letter was nothing about numbers and
Yes,
mathematics
yes.
and like economy, and then they say prepare for a future that it's not gonna go the way you planned. It's like sorry, but
Yeah,
it's not going to. And then what is he, what, 93, 95?
yeah, yeah. It's
So
amazing.
and my point is like he's just saying things that quote unquote sound so basic, but
Uh,
they are not that basic because unfortunately we cannot follow those simple principles, right? We're still on the go, go, go,
treadmill.
do, smart, 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 goals, objectives, etc. So before we go, because I mean you won't believe this, but it's almost been an hour talking now.
Really?
Yes,
Oh
and
gosh.
so one last thing I want to share. That was your first book, but now you have a set of books. So where you're actually teaching. I need people to read the first one first because definitely they need to see where they're at in life. But once they make those changes and decisions and they are ready to the next step, then they can go to your other two books. So you want to tell us about those two books?
Yeah, so the other two books are the communication books that I mentioned earlier. So one is called Public Speaking. I've actually got wee copies here. Can I hold them up?
Of course.
Is it all right to show? Because then people can see it. So the first one is Public Speaking, and it's from stage fright to spotlight, and there's exercises and stuff in that. And the second one is How to Talk to Anyone, and it's from small talk to big impact. And again, there's exercises and stuff. And it's interesting that because a lot of people say, oh, I hate small talk. I can't stand small talk. But small talk is so important because even when you and I first met, we didn't know each other. It was small talk initially. It was kind of like, who are you? And you need the small talk before you can go deep, before you can, and it's a way to connect. And learning how to do small talk properly can lead to a big impact. I mean, here I'm having this beautiful opportunity to be on your podcast. And for me, hopefully that will have a bigger impact on some other people's lives. And for your audience, that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't had the initial small talk.
Yeah.
So I feel a communication, it ties in with the relationship thing as well, that the more we talk, the more honest and open we are, which is what you're encouraging, the deeper we go, the better our relationships are. People will leave a company, but they won't leave a community. If in your business you've got a beautiful community where people feel that they belong, they will even take less money if they feel empowered and joyful. And when we're not feeling happy, having the courage to speak up, even within an environment, you think, okay, well, I want to stay working on my business, but this isn't working. Who do you need to speak to? And or maybe it's in a corporation, um, to be heard without the fear of, oh, well, then I'll get sacked. Then I'll be seen as someone that rocks the boat. Then I'll be like, it's if we speak up, it's a negative. Um, but it's not, because if you're happy, we know it with our children, if they're happy, we're happy, you know. And if your team are happy, the business will thrive and it makes your life easier. So let them come to you as well. It's not just about you speaking up, it's also about you being a good listener to those around you, to your team, and maybe even the people that produce your product or whatever. Um,
Yeah. And you were talking about the small talk, which you teach in your books to talk to anyone. And to me, small talk is about reading energies. I can read the person if I'm gonna be able to connect.
yeah.
I think I have like this energy radar where if someone cannot make a small talk, it's telling me that they have either something to hide or they're just not confident enough to have a conversation with anyone,
Hmm.
they really don't know themselves.
Hmm.
Because when you really understand and you're confident and you're starting to work in yourself and you're trying to get better, every person is an opportunity for you to learn something new.
Yeah.
So I think I've learned so much just from small talk and conversations, just like I'm learning today,
Hmm.
just because I was willing to open up and say, I know nothing about this person. And I know this person has something to share. So coming with that mindset and that attitude, it changes a lot the way that you're approaching people, because you don't come with any bias or preconception of what this, and the problem is not what you think. It's the worst part, I would say, and it's what you think that this person is going to think about you.
Yes.
First one,
Yes.
you think about this person. It's about how you feel this person is going to see you or what this person is going to think. When you get rid of all those negative self-talk and say, I'm just me today, I'm going to be different tomorrow, I'm going to be different in 10 years, I'm going to be different when I get
Yes.
through menopause,
And it does,
I will
it
be
changes.
different
Yeah.
years ago. Yeah, so
Mm.
this person that I'm meeting today, it's not going to be the same person next year. So
Yeah.
I'm going to meet this person today and I'm going to see what this person is doing today. What's the business that this person is on today?
Yeah.
How are their kids today? Right? Her decisions or his decisions today. And just understanding that we're all in this earth learning, and no one, not even Warren Buffett has the answers. No one
No,
has the
no.
answers. No one has the answers, and no one's perfect, and no one knows what's exactly the formula to live the best perfect life. And I think if someone really wants to keep growing, um in personally in their relationships, they need to take back control of their lives. That's one thing. Go out of that victim mindset. No one's going to come and save me, right? Understanding that part and really get some skills. If you're not like me, who was born by, talking and speaking up for others, and it's okay, you can learn it. You can still learn it. There's books out there like yours that are written from a place of love. They're written from a place of you serving others and sharing your experience. And just to wrap up, I want to know what's beyond these books. What are the things that you're trying to accomplish and that you want to bring more people on board with you? What's next for you?
Well, it's actually again a new phase, I suppose. But so I did the books for my friend and for the workshops and everything, and she still runs these storytelling events live, which I love. And the books are on Amazon and wherever, have actually brought coaching clients, people that actually want the one-on-one help now, to step up and speak. And what I'm finding really interesting about that is I say to them, what is your topic? What is it that you want to share? And there are so many good people out there who want to share positive messages to make the world a better place, to make human beings better and more connected. And so I'm loving that. And that was an organic thing that I hadn't expected to get people wanting coaching from the books. I just thought they'd read the book and that would be and they're on Audible as well, actually. So some people have said to me it's great to be able to listen to it while they're in the car and stuff. But some have reached out and said, actually, could you help me one-on-one? I've got a speech to prepare, I've got to do a presentation. And so that's what's beyond the book at the moment. And the next thing I'm doing is I've actually put both books together in a bundle to just try and give people a bit more value financially, sort of like two for the price of one. And it's called The Ultimate Collection on Confident Communication. That's on Amazon as well. And actually, it just yesterday went live on Audible.
Oh, love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Congrats. I know it's a big journey for any author to
Oh,
actually start like writing it and putting it out there. But I always think that this is legacy for you. It's stop working for a project and going to legacy and actually I'm so happy that you took the time again to be with me and beyond the book. I hope everyone listening and watching enjoy the conversation as much as I did because I did enjoy every minute of it. And
thank
and
you.
I wish you the best. And please go and get her books. Can they connect with you on LinkedIn as well?
Yes,
Or the
yes.
best
So
to reach?
it's just Anne McKeown, ANNE, and then McKeown is McKeown. And my website's annmckeown.com.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
And I'll see you guys very soon on the next episode. Thank you, Anne.
Thanks. Bye.